Hello everyone and welcome to my review for the film Won't You Be My Neighbor. So Won't You Be My Neighbor is the documentary film that takes a look at the life of Fred Rogers and his work in the children's television program industry. This was a phenomenal documentary, guys, and there was so many great things about this documentary, and I love how multifaceted this documentary was and how it kind of was able to focus on so many different aspects and give this complete view of Fred Rogers as a man, as a figure, as a public figure, and also give a very complete view of his work. One of my favorite things about this documentary is basically how much ground it was able to cover despite being a not very long documentary and also never feeling very disjointed. This movie could have really gone down an easy route and just talked about how unorthodox the shows and methods of Fred Rogers were. And it could have also only talked about the impact that Fred Rogers' show had on people. And while the film does cover both of those things in great detail, what I love about this film is how it goes the extra step and talks about how Fred Rogers as a person, both through his work but also outside of his work, was able to impact the world. I think that's one of the greatest parts of this movie is how it's able to explain not only how Fred Rogers' work impacted the world, but also how Fred Rogers as a person himself impacted the world. What I mean specifically when I say kind of what impact Fred Rogers had on the world is kind of talking a lot about Fred Rogers as a person, kind of his personality and his characteristics, and how that man was able to not only just through his work but outside of his work channel empathy into the world and bring a message of love to everyone. Through his work ethic or through the people around him. And you see all these interviews of people who were impacted, not just by Fred Rogers' show, but by Fred Rogers himself, people who worked around him, his family. And that part of the movie was just genuinely really eye-opening for me and really touching to see, is that, a man who says all these things on the TV show is also able to, live them out in real life. That was just one of the most amazing and impactful things to me. And they were all messages of love and empathy, and it was such a hopeful film and kind of an optimistic film, where it reminds you, really, as a human being, that one of your greatest assets is the power of empathy. And what I loved about the movie is that it was able to show that wasn't just the point of the TV show, but Fred Rogers himself lived that, every day in his life and lived by that. And it really inspired, me, and I think a lot of other people who have seen this movie, because this movie has been raved by critics and audiences alike, to kind of live up to that example and try to better themselves and have more love and empathy in their kind of daily life. And it was really an inspirational and impactful film in that way. But no discussion about Fred Rogers, of course, is, complete without discussion about his work and the work that he did for, children's educational programming on television. He really is one of the, pioneers of children's educational television programming, and what he did was so unique because his television show was so unique, and the film really displays that uniqueness. And I think that it goes into a lot of great detail about that, and as I mentioned earlier, however, that's not the only thing. It also talks about Fred Rogers as a person, but when it does talk about his work, they basically have done a great job in this film of giving you a very complete view of his work, because not only do you kind of see that passion that Fred Rogers had for his work and the commitment he had to making sure that his work was done properly and that it was done right every single time, but you also see some of the difficulties that come with having a very singular vision and being very passionate about that singular vision, because what he was doing was something that, was very different for its time, and it still is very different for its time. His television show was very different from what most children's programming was or is or has been, really. And that's described more in the film, so I won't go too much into detail. I want you guys all to see the film for yourselves and be able to, enjoy and learn about that through the film. But, when you have such a singular vision, there's a lot of creative difficulties that come with that. And the film is able to so properly and amazingly detail the creative difficulties that come with that, and kind of sometimes uncertainties that come with the creative process behind such a singular and different vision. And I really appreciated the film and the filmmaker's ability to, show that part of Fred Rogers' creative life, is that not every time will it be really easy. There's going to be difficulties when you're trying to do something really amazing in the creative field. And I loved how they were able to show that, but also show at the same time show his immense love and passion towards his work. It's amazing what he was able to do, and the film really details that. Overall, guys, Won't You Be My Neighbor is a very well made and impactful, powerful, inspiring documentary that shows the power of empathy through Fred Rogers, through his amazing work and through the amazing person he was, and really serves as a great reminder of the most important asset that we all have as humans, and that is love and empathy. And there's no greater example of that, or can be seen of that, than Fred Rogers. And this movie really details in really amazing fashion how he was able to channel that not only in his life but also in his work. Truly an unforgettable documentary. Guys, seek this one out. It's really powerful, really impactful. I was definitely really surprised by it. It's very interesting as well. As I said, there's a lot about his work in this film. But more than that, really, it's about how we can all learn something from Fred Rogers. So I'm going to give Won't You Be My Neighbor an A. If you guys like this review and video, there's more videos coming out. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those great things, and I'll see you guys next time.